You think your horse needs to be tired to be good. A lot of riders do. So we lunge them first, we ride them down, keep them moving until they settle. But exhaustion or being tired is not relaxation. And in fact, we know that tiredness actually decreases learning, decreases mental capacity, mental function, all of those things in humans and mammals in general. And horses are mammals, right? A tired horse can still be mentally braced. They can still feel trapped. They can still be anxious. In the long run, you're not going to get a quiet, tired horse. What you're going to get is a really fit horse that doesn't like to work because they're always tired and they feel crappy afterwards. One of the things you have to remember about our horses is that they remember how experiences make them feel. That is a primary way that they learn. So if an experience does not feel good, they are not going to want to repeat it. Would you? Concept of relaxation is not something that comes naturally to most people these days. Because of this human world that we've created where things are constantly in motion, we are constantly thinking about responsibilities that we have. We have to make relaxation a conscious part of our day, most of us. We have created the same environments for our horses by taking away their freedom. And many of us think that our horses have an easy life, or I don't know if people actually think that or if it's just something that's said. But we think because the horses get to lounge all day, whether it's in their stall or in a paddock, maybe in a field with their buddies, we think that we pamper them. But that doesn't mean our horses think that. Just because you think your horse is pampered doesn't mean they think that. And no, they shouldn't think they are. That's against their nature. Relaxation is a nervous system skill. It's emotional flexibility, the ability to return to a place of safety and comfort after a pressure or a stressor, uncertainty, challenges, whatever. From the horse's point of view, I see it as trusting you're human enough to be able to relax around them and not feel like you need to protect yourself. Let your guard down, just like you feel around your friends, probably. And that is something that you can be for your horse. It's something that you can teach your horse that you are available for. And when you do that, it makes your everyday riding so much easier. And it builds the relationship between you and your horse. At the Happy Horse Camp, we're going to spend a lot of time on the concepts of reflex to relax, and rhythmic relaxation. Your whole riding experience will improve. Transitions improve, spookiness decreases, that laziness decreases. They learn faster. Your connection gets deeper, and your horse will start to participate and be interested in what they're doing instead of just complying with your asks. The coolest part about all of this is that it doesn't come from coercion or force. It comes from rhythm. Your rhythm, their rhythm, something all natural things have. Whether we want to talk about it or not, it's biological. We all have a rhythmic energy to us. You can have a shared energy with your horse of two nervous systems actually being able to regulate together rather than one of you always trying to regulate the other. So let's get into what relaxation really means to horses and humans, and why teaching it might be one of the most important things you do in your training. Welcome, friends and fellow horse fiends. I'm Anna Fox of Equus Enlightened, and this is the Thinking Horse and Rider, the podcast dedicated to training you to become the best possible partner for your horse. Here, we explore the science and soul of horsemanship. We dive into equine behavior, the psychology of partnership, and compassionate training methods that help you become a thinking rider who creates a thinking horse. Because when you understand how your horse's mind works and show up with empathy and presence, everything gets easier and a whole lot more fun. My goal is to keep riding easy and fun for everyone, while helping you deepen your connection, find more flow, and maybe even create your own unicorn along the way. Whether you're working on dressage movements or just trying to understand why your horse did that thing they did, we'll explore the research, the real talk, and the small shifts that make a big difference in and out of the saddle. So grab your boots, take a deep breath. What are you waiting for? Come ride with me. Hey guys, this is clearly not my normal background for the podcast because I am in Savannah this week. It's supposed to be a little vacation. My husband's actually at a fire conference, and so, I'm supposed to have some free time or whatever. But of course, with getting ready to go out of town and the kids just getting out of school, I did not have time to get all the things done that I wanted to get done. So here I am in the hotel room. If you hear any weird sounds, that's probably what it is. Also, I will try to work around any giant foghorns that you might hear outside because we're right on the river. But just know if there's any weird interruptions, that's probably what it is, or any weird background noise. If the audio is different, that is why. All the things. So let's dive into this concept of teaching a reflex to relax to your horse. The first thing I want to do is talk about some terms because, as Alex Hormozy would say, we need to define a term to use a term. He's just a business guy, not a horse guy. So, um, unless you're into business stuff, you don't really need to go look him up, probably. But that's one thing that he always says is define a term to use a term. So there are a lot of terms in the horse world that get thrown around, and they either don't really have formal definitions or everybody has their own perception of what that term is. So I don't want to perpetuate that problem. I want you guys to really understand what I'm talking about. And if my definitions don't make sense or anything like that, let me know. Reach out, jump in the school community, hit me up on the socials, whatever it is. But let me know what you didn't understand so we can talk about it more in depth. To start off, I think relaxation is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the horse world. We often think that a tired horse is a relaxed horse. We've been taught that. It's not true. A tired horse can still be in a state of anxiety, nervousness, fear, whatever. You've been in that state, right? You've been exhausted, but just overwrought. We all have. And we know that sleep deprivation causes these problems, causes them in horses too. There's just not as much research out there. People think that relaxation in a horse is just an obedient horse that's not reacting and is listening or doing what you think you want it to do. That may just be a horse that's coping, which is totally different than being relaxed. I'm sure you also know that feeling. You might also know the feeling of being in a workplace where it doesn't really matter what you do. The same things are going to happen, and it's just another day of same shit, different day. Okay. And so then we just kind of shut down, conserve our energy. We know that nothing we do is going to change anything, so why bother? Horses get to that point too. And no, they should not know what we want them to do. They should also not think that they're pampered. How would they think that? Why would they think that? Why would they even know to think that? They absolutely would not. They were not born knowing how to be human, just like we weren't born knowing how to be horses. And they were not born knowing what we want them to do. If you think, well, I have a trained horse. If you didn't train that horse yourself, your horse still doesn't know what you want it to do because it knows what somebody else wants it to do, but not you. So you have to teach your horse what you want. And you also have to keep their psychology in mind. You have to be mindful of whether you are meeting your horse's psychological needs. There are a whole bunch of ways to do that. We've talked about it in previous podcasts. I go through many, many, many ways in my online course. But you have to be available. You have to have that as part of your mental availability for your horse. It might sound weird, but horses are acutely aware of energy. So they are aware of your thoughts and feelings probably better than you are sometimes. If you have the thought of, I really want to help you, I really want to do this in the best way possible for you. Because honestly, if you do it in the best way possible for your horse, if you make it easy for them, it's going to be easier for you. And I always tell people, I'm a lazy rider and I want to do things the easy way. I want to do things the hard way. Why? Life's hard enough. And didn't we get into horses for like fun? Anyway, relaxation is your ability to soften while remaining emotionally, mentally present in the moment. And sometimes it's really hard if you think about it. It's like, oh man, that's a hard thing. And we want our horses to do it. These prey animals that we've decided we should ride, we want them to know how to do that on. It's something that we need to teach them. And recognizing that your horse has a nervous system and has emotions and has, I don't know, mental trials and tribulations is not anthropomorphizing. That is simple science and biology. It is true for all mammals and probably other species too. Anthropomorphizing is when someone thinks that your horse thinks exactly like like you, or that your horse has the same thoughts, processes information the same way. Understanding biological survival mechanisms is just reality. So assuming that your horse has a great life because you pamper it and they have a clean stall and they have this nice green pasture and they have new shoes every 6 weeks and they get the massages and all the other things, right? That's anthropomorphizing. Saying, oh, my horse might be dysregulated because they've had to stand in the stall all day and they don't have any contact with other horses. That's that's just true. So we really need to start to take those concepts into our consciousness and be mindful of them, be aware. I think horses really just would like us to be more aware. For starters, maybe they have many more things to teach us. But for right now, it's just to be aware of what we're asking of them and also what we're asking of ourselves, because sometimes that's a lot. So relaxation is the ability to come back to a state of calm after a challenge. Let's say that's the basic definition that we're going to be using it. That's the basic definition that we're going to be using. Rhythm is another thing that we often hear a lot about, right? The bottom of the training pyramid or the training scale used to be always the classical one anyway, rhythm and relaxation. Rhythm is something that biological systems crave, just like why babies like to be rocked. We like to rock to the music. Some people love the motion of boats. They love the motion of the water. That's rhythm. And that's why so many horses like steady movement. They like fans in the barn. They like radios. They lick and they chew. Those are all rhythmic behaviors. They like tapping, endotapping. It's a form of therapy. Horses love rhythmic movement, just like humans, because rhythm often signals safety to a nervous system. Think about it. If you are jamming along to some music in your car and you see a police car come up behind you, just maybe just driving around, not even with their lights on, what's the first thing you do? You're like, and then you don't hear the music anymore. You lost the rhythm because your nervous system wasn't safe anymore. Rhythm is important. Rhythm signals safety. All mammals are really good at reading rhythm. Humans are too, except that we've kind of busied ourselves and technologied ourselves out of that. So we're just not conscious of it anymore. And you have to be really mindful about it sometimes to understand what you're noticing. A lot of times we notice rhythm, we just don't acknowledge it. And you might have seen, for instance, you might have seen pictures of like an African plain with all of these wild animals grazing together. And you might think, well, why are they all there? There's, also a pack of lions chilling under the shade of a tree. It's because they can read the intention of those predators. Now, if a lion gets up like, I'm hungry, that whole group of animals is going to run away. That is how astute they are at reading rhythm. And that is why we can't really hide fear from our horses. It's why people say they can smell fear. It's also why horses know when you're sad, just like your dog. They read the rhythm of your energy. And there's also some other physiological factors that happen. But for the purposes of this, we're talking about reading rhythm and energy. Mammals also like to synchronize their rhythm and energy. That's why when you notice that sort of beautiful vision of all these animals grazing together, they all up and leave at the same time. If you really watch, you'll probably notice that even the grazing motions are rhythmic. You'll notice that if you go out in the pasture with your horses, if you have a group of horses turned out together, they are often munching in synchrony. Same thing in the barn, even with hay. If you are a woman and you've ever worked in a busy office with a lot of women, menstrual cycles tend to sync up. It's not weird. It is natural. It's biology. So we all love rhythm and we also like to be relaxed. Well, as humans, we make ourselves not relaxed a lot. It's really hard to fake it around your horses because they feel the rhythm of your energy. And if you try to fool your horse, for instance, if you're afraid, but you're like, I'm going to power through this, I'm going to do it, maybe you wonder, like, your horse is even more weird. Well, now your energies are really at odds, right? That to them is totally bizarre because they really don't even have that ability. Your brain is saying you're going to be brave and you're going to do this, but your physiology is like, oh my God, I'm scared to death. Horse doesn't have the ability to do that. Their brain doesn't go, okay, you're gonna act like a big boy, but you're going to be scared to death. They're just be scared to death. Like they might be trying to comply with what you're asking, but they're still scared to death. So when that contradictory rhythm happens, the horse thinks that's really weird, and that can be unsettling to them. Remember, our horses are all individuals too. So it may be more unsettling to one horse than it is to another. Again, simple biology. I'm sure some of you have heard about the polyvagal theory. And that is that our systems are basically meant to go from a state of activation and then back to that state of relaxation. And why that's important is we can teach ourselves, we can also teach our horses to be in an activated state and then come back to a state of relaxation. I don't really want to get super sciencey about that whole thing, but we just need to understand that it is possible. And there's a lot of psychology working with people and their fears that sort of use this in a rhythm to help people. And we can use that same sort of rhythm philosophy with helping horses. Horses and humans were both built to be mainly in that state of rest and digest, that state of relaxation, and only to go into a state of activation when it's needed and then return to that rest and digest. But what we've done with our schedules, our phones pinging, worrying about all our responsibilities is that we have taken that away for ourselves. We've also taken it away for our horses because we control mostly every aspect of their lives. Some of us may have horses that have a degree of freedom. They have some freedoms, but they're usually within a confined space because we don't just let them loose. So think about how that sort of confinement or external control over your life would make you feel. Would that add stress or would it take stress away? I guess it depends on whether you really like prison life or not. That is where I think that the horse world is a bit of an oxymoron. We think we've gotten really good at caring for horses, and we think we do a really good job because we feed them, we clean their stalls, schedule a farrier, schedule a vet, massages, and whatever. But those are not the things that horses need as their basic needs. They are needs that they have while living in our domestic world, but they are not basic horse needs. A horse can have perfect care and still have nervous system, perfect human care and still have nervous system dysregulation. And the same goes for equestrians. The same goes for humans. You can think you're doing all the things right and still have nervous system dysregulation. I know a lot of riders who are very skilled, who work with good trainers, who have great technique, good horses, all the things, but there's still just this one piece missing. A lot of times it is that nervous system dysregulation. And it's going to show up in all kinds of different ways, right? It might be fear, it might be perfection. But when you show up to your horse with that nervous system dysregulation, they feel it. They feel that wrong energy, and then they're going to wonder why. Segment, I think a segment of the horse industry is starting to notice that and starting to talk about it more, but it's not very mainstream yet. That leaves a lot of riders out there wondering what the heck is missing. And that's why I'm creating a lot of the programs that I'm creating because I am a person who's always searching for the missing piece of that puzzle. I want all of us to have good relationships with our horses. I want us to feel safe and feel confident and have fun with our horses and not just always be stressed about are we doing the right things for them. So one of the ways I'm going to do that is by trying to teach you guys about rhythm and relaxation without the riding part first. Yes, it's important when you're riding, but it's also important just in your daily things that you do with your horse or groundwork, whatever. It's important all the time. And if you're a dressage rider, you know about the training scale and rhythm and relaxation. Getting your horse to the top levels of training is not more collection. It's not their head position. It's not fancy movements. It is the foundation, that relaxation and rhythm. And I'm going to digress for a minute because this is also a place where I think a lot of the horse world is getting it wrong because many equestrians think that the training scale is something that you need to climb. And once you have taught your horse rhythm and relaxation, then you can just work your way on up the scale to collection and you never have to look back. That's not what they meant when they made that. Think about it like the pyramids of Egypt, called the training pyramid for a reason. But anyway, the pyramids in Egypt are built on a foundation, and that foundation has to be really strong. And then every time you want to add another layer, you have to climb up the foundation to get to that layer. That is how your riding should be every day. You're always climbing up your foundation first, and then maybe working on a layer. And then you're probably going back down to your foundation again. Because after you've asked for something hard, after you've done a little bit of collection, you need to return to that state of rhythm and relaxation. So you can return your horse to a place of mental clarity where they can learn again. But if you keep them in that state of collection for too long a period of time, they get tired. They're coping, they're not learning. You should be asking yourself and your horse in any moment, can we return to a state of relaxation? If the answer is no, then figure it out. It's really that simple. We're making it harder than it is. What I want to do is give you one little tool to help you teach your horse a reflex to relax. And sometimes this ends up being a reflex to relax for the humans too. You're going to start with your hand on your horse's neck. And I want you to start up as high as your horse will allow you without, getting worried about their ears or whatever. And then run your hand down the neck with as much pressure as you would use, let's say, on an egg or a tomato, so don't break it, but just that firm feel so you don't drop it. And find a place that feels a little hard or knotted, hotter maybe, protruding. An area of tension can feel different, but if you really drop into this and you're mindful about it, maybe we should start with a few deep breaths and then do it. When you feel a place that just feels different, before you get to the horse's shoulder, we're going to work just in that neck space for now. Leave your hand there. If you don't feel a place that feels weird, usually about the midpoint of the horse's neck, you can safely do this there and teach your horse this reflex to relax. You're going to leave your hand in that spot with just about the same pressure to start with of that egg or tomato. We're not crushing it, we're just holding it there. And then I want you to concentrate on your horse's breathing. I want you to notice their breathing patterns. You can either look at their head, you can look at their belly, whatever helps you start to notice the rhythm of their breathing? And then can you synchronize with that? Can you match your breath to theirs? Do they breathe faster? Do they breathe slower? Are their breaths longer? Is it hard for you? Sometimes it's a really interesting experiment for the riders or the horse lover if you're not a rider. A lot of times horses will release right here. They will drop their head. You'll feel their neck soften under your hand. They'll lick, they'll chew, they'll blink. If that happens, then you just take your hand away. If you don't feel anything, keep your hand there. Maybe add a little pressure. And sometimes I'll even think about sort of playing the piano with my fingers a little bit, even though I have no idea how to play the piano. But we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to sort of move our fingers rhythmically. And whatever rhythmic motion works for you, because we're all different and we all have a different rhythm. If that too doesn't make any difference, then you can start to use your halter as a help. Did I say start in a halter and a lead rope? If I didn't, I should have. So you're going to put your hand on the halter. I like to do it in just that little angle there between the nose piece and the cheek piece. This is also assuming that your horse knows how to yield to pressure. If they don't, retreat, teach them that first. But if they do, keep your hand where it is and use the pressure on the halter to sort of bring their head either a little bit towards you, or you could go down, whichever you prefer and what you think is easier for your horse, and ask them to release that way. When they do, take both hands away, both hands off. Be happy. Yay! Then you can try it again. Now, every time you do it, you're going to start with your hand in that spot. You don't have to run your hand down your horse's neck every time. A lot of times, just your horse will start to notice what's happening just by you lifting your hand. But every time, you need to start with the lightest pressure and then add a little pressure and then add the halter. Do not just go boop halter. No, that's not teaching your horse. That's just manipulating. You are going to start with the hand on the neck, add a little more pressure, breathe with them a little bit, wait, see if anything happens. Then you can add the halter pressure. As soon as they release, you let go. Rinse and repeat. And you will notice that if you're diligent about these steps, your horse will start to release at less and less pressure. Like I said, even when your hand is just going up there. I have a funny short on YouTube that I will link in the show notes, and I will also link a full video of the Reflex to Relax in the show notes for you. And I'm actually teaching this horse how to yield to pressure, and the full video is in my online course. But the short, I'm just using my intention and basically going to put my hand on his halter, and he just puts his head down because he already knows the game. So he is like, oh, I got you. I know what you're thinking. Horses are incredibly perceptive. And when we drop in, when we can tune in, we can notice that from them. It's not that they're not showing it to us on a regular basis. We are not noticing it. This falls actually back into the energy ladder, right? Using your hand. For instance, raising my hand and my intention would be the first rung of my ladder. The second rung of my ladder would be putting my hand on the horse's neck. The third rung would be applying a little more pressure or maybe using my fingers. And then the fourth rung would be asking the horse to yield from that halter. And then every time I go through those until I notice that they're releasing sooner and sooner. And eventually, the same thing that happened to me with my video of teaching the horse to yield to pressure, when you start to put your hand up, your horse is going to go, oh, God, okay, thank God. It's like, boom, Jedi mind trick, but it's not. Maverick is totally in love with Grogu. So there's a lot of Star Wars talk in our house right now. Anyway, I do want to know how this works out for you. Let me know either in a review, if you can leave a comment like on Spotify, or you can jump into the school community. You can also hit me up on the socials, DM me, email me, whatever. All of those links are in the show notes. I really want to know how these experiments go for you and how we can help you more. Oh, and wish me a lot of sunshine and pool time because right now in Savannah, it's cloudy and kind of blah. I will see you next week. All right, horse fiends, thanks for hanging out with us today. If this episode got your gears turning, don't forget to check out Reconnect, Rebuild, and Ride with Heart. The links are in the show notes. It's the program that'll take everything we talked about here and actually help you apply it in real life with your horse. And hey, before you ride off, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a quick rating or review of the show. It helps more riders like you find us and keep these conversations going. All the links you need are waiting in the show notes. Happy riding!